Well, I had to go back out there. I had to go out to the party barn that I didn't go to because my client didn't want me to originally.
Right.
And I get in there and there's a Federal Pacific electrical panel in there. So
The bedrooms were going down the back right side of the house, and it felt like
you were falling
Yeah,
forward.
we're falling forward, and the bedroom doors would only open this far.
Oh. So us as home inspectors, we are actually required to write up a written opinion about the foundation. I don't know if a lot of people know that or not. So, I mean, if your inspector is inspecting the way that he should be, that should be in the report.
Okay, so I know you've seen a lot of houses. You've seen old houses, new builds we've already talked about. Tell me what some of your most memorable inspections have been.
Right now, the one that sticks out in my mind, there's several. There was a flip home that I did just a few weeks ago. And after the home sells, I'm going to make it my sample report of why you always get a home inspection. But the house was roughly around 1800-ish square feet. It was from the 60s. It was pier and beam. And I wrote up over 100 deficiencies. That was the most that I've ever written up on any home, especially in that size. It was literally, it was that bad. I mean, I'm talking about even the toilet had hot water coming out of it, that kind of bad. They had all their plumbing lines crossed. There were a bunch of things. And I don't want to talk about that house too terribly much because it's still on the market right now. So, but I'm just glad.
That's why you need a home inspection.
That's why you need a home inspection. I'm just glad that my client got in. Luckily, her agent, they ended up finding her. She got a brand new house, a little bit smaller, but a brand new house with way less problems for the same amount.
You know, I love the 1935 homes.
Oh yeah,
there's some beautiful.
I know, and that's the love-hate relationship that I have. I love like old homes. There was a home that I did in Paris it was over 100 years old, and it was absolutely beautiful. And whoever redid some things in there, but they try to leave everything as original as possible. And I absolutely love that. I enjoy that. I like the history part of that, but not everybody else does.
No, when I show those houses, I walk through and I'm just like, oh, look at this, trim feature or
all the detail into everything. I love like the doorknobs and the hardware. Like I love all that stuff. But there were two homes that are of that caliber that I will never forget. And one of them was in Paris, Texas, and then the other one was in Honey Grove. So those are, I like those houses. They're not that fun to inspect because normally people don't keep up with stuff and there's a lot of things to look out for. But I love those types of homes. But like I said, it's a love-hate relationship.
When you look at the walls, can you see if there's like nests of mice or insects or?
If there's any kind of a temperature difference that's behind there, I mean, if there was a mouse that was kind of laid up against the drywall long enough, I could potentially see that. Okay. If you want to, if we can move this camera over to this wall, I can show you, do a little demonstration for you. This is my thermal camera, and all it does is it detects temperature differences. But you can see, here at the wall, there's nothing there. If we look through our camera, nothing's there. But like I said, this thing is all about temperature differentials. So after just putting my hand on here just for a few minutes.
Oh, that is so cool.
My body heat transferred over to the wall. So as you can see, you can't see a handprint there, but you can definitely see where.
There.
Yeah.
Wow.
So those are the main ones. But I've even had clients, I don't know if I just have a really good memory or what, but like I have a hard time with names, but I'm great with faces and especially properties. And so like as soon as there was a client that I did their 11-month warranty inspection for just yesterday, and I get to the house and I realize who it is. And then I was asking them all kinds of questions about their house that I inspected. They actually did a pre-listing inspection. Okay. And like I found like their wax ring was actually going out on their toilet upstairs, and whenever I flushed it with my thermal camera, I found where it was actually starting to leak through onto the ceiling in the kitchen of all places.
Okay, I've seen that on inspection reports.
Yeah. And so like I was able to find that. And luckily that's all that it was. It wasn't a pipe or anything, but I was asking them questions. Like I remembered all that from over a year ago. I remembered that house and most of the things that I found. Like her her husband, I don't know if he was aspiring to be an electrician, but he tried to do some electrical work in the attic, and it wasn't necessarily done the safest way. So I called that out. They had to get that stuff fixed, but I remembered all that stuff and was talking to him about that.
So what about this houses that are not in the city, or like Sherman Denison? You know, we have the house inspectors for the city. What about houses that are out of the city? So they don't have anybody checking up on them, right?
Correct. Especially it always seems like it's worse whenever like you're way out in Fannin County and then across the border, like over like in the Cartwright, Colbert, Calera area. There's a lot of homes where there's a lot of people that they know how to do stuff. They don't know about how to do stuff safely and the way things that should be done or properly done.
Right.
And those homes it's kind of comical and frustrating at the same time. Just seeing some of the things that people do. And there's just some things that people think they know how to do and they don't. Like, for instance, there was an inspection that I did not too long ago where they had a propane tank outside and they replaced the water heater, but they used a water heater that is rated for natural gas and not propane. So even though the water was still getting hot, it wasn't working like it was supposed to. And the flame underneath was a little scary. So
So when you go to, like, you go to school, you get certified. Do they teach you all that kind of stuff, like the color of the flame? Or
they throw a lot of stuff at you, but the best experience is field experience, in my opinion. And luckily, like I had a really great ride along. I still talk to him to this day. And like I said, I had a background in a lot of this stuff to begin with before I even got into inspections. So there's a lot of this stuff that I've learned and then refreshed, over the years.
Yeah.
So, and then just communicating and talking to other inspectors and never stop learning. I mean, I'm with a little home inspection group where we meet once a month and we get 2 hours of continuing education.
Okay.
And so I'm literally always constantly learning everything.
So you're licensed through TREC. So what are your continuing education requirements?
So ours as home inspectors, we need to have 16 hours a year, and it needs to total up to 32 hours for our license, which is 2 years.
Okay.
And 8 hours, that has to be our standards of practice.
Okay.
So, and that's, so we have to, at least one of those classes has to be 8 hours worth of standards of practice stuff, because there will be stuff that changes over time.
Yeah, like constantly.
Yeah, constantly.
Like that was okay last year, but this year now,
right.
they want.
Exactly. Yeah, you saying that reminded me, like on kitchen islands, like for the longest time, like it was required to have an outlet. Then they didn't want you to have one. And then like now if you have one, they want it on top instead of on the side, because if you have like a mixer or something and you're plugged it in on the side, a kid could come by and pull the cord and make the mixer fall on them, and cross pop.
Or something.
Exactly.
Coffee pot.
Right. Exactly. So it's all safety is a big thing on that. That's always changing also.
Yeah, that's great. It is. Even just as a realtor, when I'm with my clients and we're going over the inspection, and I'll be like, really? And you guys will be like, yeah, it's new. It's
right. Yeah, there's a lot of times, and I'll tell my clients like, hey, look, there's a lot of different things in here, but it's stuff that I want you to know about. It might not necessarily pertain to this house, or it might not be an issue yet, but I want you to know about this so it won't become an issue. Or if it does, you'll know how to look out for it and how to take care of it in the future.
I really like that. I like reading the report and seeing this is the way you would maintain this or keep an eye on it.
Right.
Which kind of brings me to foundation.
Okay.
Okay, so when you're inspecting a house, tell us the things that you look for that might indicate there's an issue with foundation.
Well, so here's the thing with our area, we've got this crazy soil that it'll do some crazy stuff to some foundations. Even my home, the guy that built my home was a framer by trade. And so like my house is rock solid, but there's been times where it's been so dry outside, I've got doors upstairs that won't latch anymore. Then after it rains, everything kind of calms down and settles down. I can open and close my doors again. They latch like they're supposed to. Pier and beam homes, whether They have actual piers that go all the way down to the ground or into the ground, or they have just the regular concrete blocks. If stuff's not graded and draining correctly, you're going to have a lot of expansion and contraction where there might be a little hump here one day and then it goes away, after the weather changes. It's all it's a little crazy sometimes, but whenever it comes to like a slab house and whenever I'm going through looking, if you have foundation problems, there is 9 times out of 10 going to be signs, whether it might be some cracks, and there's some cracks that are totally okay that are going to happen.
Normal.
Right, but then there's some that aren't, and then there's some like I've got a pretty long TikTok video, and I haven't posted it yet, but it's about 9 minutes long. But I was in this house. It was a very weird situation, and it almost looked like they were trying to hide that it had foundation problems. There were like parts of drywall, like there was this one wall that just had trim all around the corners, but no other wall did. And so it's like little stuff like that you've always got to be
covered up. No one will know.
Exactly, and it's just you've always got to be on the lookout for a lot of that stuff. So, but I do have another tool.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Tell us about it.
If I feel like the foundation is off, or that we've got an issue, or I'm having any kind of doubts, I'll break out this tool and I can actually measure the foundation from point A to point B and see how much things are off. And we can tell whether it's just normal settlements, or if it's just seasonal changing, or if we've got a bigger problem on our hands.
Yeah. Of course, there's the obvious, like when the walls are gapping this far.
Man, there's 2 homes, and I try my hardest to not ever recommend a structural engineer. I know agents really don't like that, but there's just some times where you absolutely have to.
Yeah.
There was a house that I did over in Oklahoma, and it was pier and beam. It was a really pretty log cabin, but you can look at the foundation. It was actually like twisting and binding, and there was one corner. I really didn't even need to measure it because it had dropped so much that it was pulling ceiling joists out of joist hangers. Like there had been that much movement. I'm like, okay, that's enough for me to see.
Yeah.
We need somebody bigger to come look at this and adequately fix this.
Yeah.
And then there was another home that I did where I feel like that they were trying to cover it up, but luckily I saw this one crack on this. This house was relatively old also, but there was a crack that was literally about that wide that was at the very top, and it just got smaller the further it went down, almost like the house was trying to
separate now. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so it's situations like that where, you got to call it like you see it, but yeah. I
had one that my client and I were walking through, and the owner was home, and I don't remember if the owner was they didn't have it with an agent, but the owner was there, and she let us in, and we talked to her just for a minute, and I said, it was an older home, have you had any issues with foundation? No, nothing. Okay, the bedrooms were going down the back right side of the house, and it felt like
you were falling forward.
Yeah, we're falling forward, and the bedroom doors would only open this far.
Oh.
So I was like, they won't open. I could have forced them, but they were jamming, and they just wouldn't go any further. And we hadn't walked the outside first because she greeted us at the door. So I got to the front and I said, you might want to have that looked at. And she was like, oh, I don't use those bedrooms. As an elderly lady, she only stays in the front part of the house,
right? Which
was fine. And then when we went to the back, you could see the whole house just like it was like sinking down into the earth.
Oh no.
And we drove a long way to see that house too.
Just to put the cherry on top.
I know, right? But no, it was good. It was good. Of course, we didn't just go see the house. We saw other houses, but the fact that, we had to go through all those country roads to get there and
to get to that,
then our way out.
Yep.
And the house was like, yeah. So those kind of things are obvious. But sometimes, people will say, well, they didn't say anything. the foundation, are you sure we don't need to have it inspected? You know, I'm like, I didn't see anything. The inspector didn't see anything.
Well, that's the thing. So us as home inspectors, we are actually required to write up a written opinion about the foundation. I don't know if a lot of people know that or not. So, I mean, if your inspector is inspecting the way that he should be, that should be in the report. So.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There is like a little summary, you know, and then the part about education about the foundation. But you know, people get real Freaky Friday about foundations.
Oh yeah, they do.
They're either, well, it's one thing or the other.
and with good reason. I mean, it is one of the most expensive things to fix in your home.
It is,
so.
and the foundation is a foundation.
Right.
You know, the whole base of the home. It's kind of like a roof.
Right.
You know, people be like, I'm not replacing that roof. I'm like, well, the roof is kind of required. Like,
right.
So what is included in a home inspection, and what other kinds of inspections do you do?
So just with a general home inspection, it is everything with the home. So it's going to be your foundation, your walls, your electrical, HVAC. You know, we look up in your attic, your roof, your fireplace, all that stuff. The way that we are required to do things is we technically only have to inspect just the house or stuff that's touching the house. Like if you have like a detached garage, us as inspectors, we don't have to inspect that. If it has a septic system, we don't have to inspect that. There's a lot of, or a pool for that matter. There are a lot of inspectors that will do some of those things and some of them won't. Like I said earlier, like I'm trying to be your one-stop shop for everything. And I'm normally a lot cheaper than a lot of these other guys. So it's almost best to, hey, let's go ahead and send me out there first. If I've got problems or if I see deficiencies with anything that need further evaluation, then we can bring them out. But not every time needs has an issue. But I inspect a lot of different things.
So do you do pest inspections?
So I'm licensed to do termites. Okay. I've got my sewer camera, so I can do that. I have my wastewater technician license, which you don't have to have that for septic systems, but I wanted to be a little bit more thorough, and so I can help out my clients more. So I can do septics, I can do wells.
Septic is a broad thing.
It is.
You do all kinds of septics, like or just anaerobic?
Around our area, we still have some older conventional septics, and then we have aerobics around here, and I inspect both of those. I try my hardest on the conventionals. It doesn't always work out that way, especially in the summertime, whenever the ground is like concrete.
Trying to get to it to see what you can see.
Right.
Then do you use your camera to inspect that? Or what do you do?
If the client wants to pay for it, if they want me to look at their sewer line or whatever.
So what else would you look for if it's a conventional? So you take the cap off, and then what are you looking for? For the conventional, I'm actually doing a lot more than what you'd think. So like before I even get started with the inspection, I like to locate the tank, open up the lids, and see where our water levels are inside. Because there's a lot of times you've got people out there where they know they've got a problem, so they'll go ahead and get it pumped. Or you can see some issues before you even start running water. And I had that same situation happen to me just not too long ago, but I'll try to stay on topic and we'll get to that in a second. But I always try to inspect everything before I start running water, and then close stuff up or make things safe to where not worried about anybody or any pets falling in. And then I'll run a lot of water and then go walk the leach fields, the drainage fields, making sure nothing is surfacing. And look for some other few little things just to make sure that the system is functioning the way that it should be. And one of the things that I always do, I don't know if any of the other inspectors do or not, but I always call the county before I go out there, because that has helped me out tremendously with not only finding the tank, but seeing where the lateral lines were. And there's been quite a few homes that I've done where they should have got a permit pulled to put in the septic, and they didn't. I find that too.
Yeah.
So I'll write them an email and say, could I please have the records for this property? And a whole lot of times the answer is, we don't have any. And it's like, Right.
But no, I do. Let's go back here. Let's see. So
sorry.
No, we're good. I could go all day long with all this stuff. But the other things that I inspect are septics, pools. I do wells. We don't have a whole lot of wells in our area, but over like in Fannin County, especially whenever you get out towards telephone. Almost everybody is on a well out there. Irrigation systems, and trying to think of what else. Like I said, I'm trying to be your one-stop shop for
irrigation
everything.
systems.
Your sprinkler systems.
Oh, sprinklers. Okay. So wells. What do you do to inspect a well?
There's a lot of different things with a well. Yeah, I've actually got a really good TikTok on something that I found at a well.
Is it one of my houses that I?
No, this was over in Oklahoma.
Okay.
I went to go fill up a bathtub and it was just sand. Like there was no water really coming out, just sand. There's a lot of different things to look out for. You got to look at the condition of the tank. I look for different safety measures like TP&R valves, different pop-off valves, different gauges, making sure things are plumbed correctly, making sure things are winterized, make sure there's an adequate structure around it. I don't do any of the actual water testing and stuff, mainly just because it's too hard for me to get that sample and get it to the lab on time.
Might have had
we might have, but I know plenty of people that's all that they do, so they can work that into their schedule. But now there's quite a few things to look over with on a well.
Yeah, wells. That's what I was like. Wow, I didn't know you actually inspect wells. You know. Okay, so then you said, well, septic outbuildings, like
outbuilt like a shop or like a detached garage or something like that. There was a house that I actually inspected a while back where my client, it had like this party barn thing in the back, and she didn't want me to inspect that, so I just stuck with the house. Well, I did the inspection, and whenever we were finishing up, she got wind that they were doing a VA loan. Now, anytime we do a VA loan, we have to have a termite inspection. And if we're doing a termite inspection for a VA loan, every single outbuilding has to be inspected.
I've had one where the outbuilding was falling down and we resolved it by the owner said, I'm just
gonna tear it down.
Haul it off.
Yeah,
because it was loaded in termites.
Oh, man. But whenever I told her, I said, well, I normally have to do a termite inspection, whenever you're doing a VA loan. She's like, this is my first time dealing with this. She's like, and I was like, you know what? I live close enough. If you need me to come back out, just holler at me. And sure enough, she did. Well, I had to go back out there. I had to go out to the party barn that I didn't go to because my client didn't want me to originally. And I get in there and there's a Federal Pacific electrical panel in there. So, and somebody had to have pulled this from a house that was getting rewired and use it in there. It was not nowhere near that old. And so you never know what you're gonna find. It's a little crazy sometimes.
Wow, that is crazy. That's one of the things I look for when I'm showing. Is I look at the panel to see what shape it's in, or if it's.
I've got some of my agents where like whenever they're walking around, they're like, "Hey, just let y'all know, he's gonna call this out. This is more than likely this is gonna need to be replaced." So I'm trying to get them that way. They kind of break the ice for me a little bit.
And VA loans or FHA, I try and play the advocate here because you don't want to fall in love with the house and get through all that process just to find out there's tons of repairs and the seller's not gonna do them, So.
And that's the thing. I mean, even if the inspection looks bad on paper, I mean, you never know what that other person might be willing to do, and that's why it's never a bad idea to get a home inspection. Just because, I mean, I would rather, and I've been in situations like that before I even got into being a home inspector. There was a duplex that I was looking at buying, and it had termites, needed foundation work, it needed a new roof, and it needed some electrical work done to it. Probably roughly around $30,000 to $40,000 worth of work. And I spent $750 on that inspection. I've never been happier to lose $750 in my life because I did not want to acquire those problems. And a lot of people, they don't think of it that way. That's what I'd love to, if I could get people to change the way that they think, their mindset about things, it would help out a lot.
What about pools? You alluded to pools. You inspect pools.
I do inspect pools. There's several things to look out on those. A lot of it is safety, and some of the stuff is not even with the pool. Some of the stuff is around the pool. Like we always need self-closing gates around a pool. That way, kids or strangers don't just accidentally wander into our backyard. So there's a lot of different things. the main stuff with home inspections, a lot of it just revolves around safety for the biggest part.
So you want to tell everybody how to reach you and the easiest way to schedule an inspection?
The easiest way, I'm still a little old school. I like for you to call me. So again, Dawson Nitcholas, Ivy League Home Inspections. My phone number is 903-815-2560. If you need a home inspection, give me a call. I want to talk to you about everything that I do, some of your concerns, so I'll have an idea of that before I even get out there, and just try to do the best inspection that I can for you and make you happy enough that you go tell all your friends about me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate
fun.
you. Yes, it was.